So basically, today we are going to discuss the fundamental understanding of why do we need to do prayers for the Lord. So there are different ways in which we can understand this concept of prayers. So one of my friends once asked me, why is Lord, you know, does the Lord have no compassion? Does the Lord not love everybody? Because imagine there is a father and there is a child, and the child is in grave danger. He just falls into a water or something. Will the father wait for the child to pray to him, like, Father, please save me, and only then will the father jump into the water? If the father knows the gravity of the situation, he will immediately jump. He'll not wait for the prayers. And God loves everyone, because every single child is ultimately a son of God. So why does God only help those who pray to Him? So this is one of the conceptions. Of course, answered by Jiva Goswami also. We'll see that part also. So the answer to this question was given very beautifully by Radhanath Maharaj, and we'll go deeper into that. The answer that he provided was that prayer is not a means to change God's mind. It's a means to allow God to come into our heart and change our mind. So when you pray, you allow God to come in contact with us. We invite Him into our heart, and then we allow Him to change our consciousness, our mind. So it's not changing God's mind. So if God decides to give you trouble, and you pray and you change His mind, that's not what is the purpose of the prayers. The purpose of prayers is to allow Him, to invite Him into your heart so that He can change your mind. And so when you go deeper into this statement, you can understand that every single action in this world um, has a purpose, and the purpose is to get you closer towards the spiritual world, towards the spiritual realm. And when you are attached to this world, there will be so many troubles, so many problems, the entire purpose of which is to get you closer to God, closer to the spiritual realm. So if you pray to the Lord, you allow Him to come to your heart, and then He will purify your desires, He'll purify your consciousness when you invite Him into your heart. And then the very purpose of the suffering and miseries will be obviated. There will be no need for those things. And naturally, Yogamaya will cease, or she will kind of reduce those kind of sufferings, because the ultimate goal of those sufferings is to get you closer to the spiritual realm, to the spiritual world. Now this might raise many questions, like, why does God use suffering as a method to get you closer to Him? So these kind of questions might arise. And if you want to go deeper into the situation, then you have to understand the spiritual existence, like Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yoveti Tatvada Tyaktva Deham Punarjanma Naitimam. If you want to understand God completely, you have to understand this statement, Janma Karma Chame Divyam. We have already discussed this many times, so we will not discuss it in detail, but the whole point is that Lord lives in a world which is completely different from our world. His experiences, His way of existence, everything is different. In that world, there is nothing known as suffering. The concept of suffering doesn't exist. You have to understand. It's an entirely different thing to say that, He doesn't suffer, but He knows what suffering is. What is the concept of suffering? But if He doesn't know the concept of suffering, that's a completely different story. So the Lord lives in a world where there is no absolute concept of suffering. In the spiritual world, when people cry, when people get angry, when people are in pain, everything is absolutely blissful. You might be burning, Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, she may be burning in separation from Krishna, but she will be experiencing the greatest bliss ever. Because the greatest pain in the spiritual world is the greatest bliss. There is nothing known as pain. In the material world, there is a duality, dvandva. That's why the Shastras keep on telling us this is duality, dvandva. There is pleasure and there is pain. Pleasure is also a kind of pain, but it is at least not that painful. But pain is really painful. So this concept of pain is unknown to the Supreme Lord, because He has never experienced such kind of a pain. So He simply acts. So there is a shloka, Shrishti Adikam Harir Naiva Prayojana Apekshatu Kurute Keval Ananda Yathamatthasya Nartanam Purnanandasya Tasya Prayojani Mati Kutaha Muktapyapta Kamasyu Kimuthasya Akilatmanaha. So this verse explains that the Lord has no purpose in creating the material world and everything, because he doesn't require any pleasure, any kind of satisfaction, because Ladini Shakti is already with him. He's always completely blissful. So what is this, all this Shrishti Adikam? This is just like, he's overcome in ecstasy, and as a result of his ecstasy, this whole universe is existing, the whole thing, So basically, what do you mean by, it's like a dance of a madman. A madman is dancing out of ecstasy, an ecstatic person is dancing. So whatever his dance is not, he's not dancing to get some pleasure. He's already full of pleasure. And as a result of overflow of his pleasure, he's dancing. So that's how the Lord is creating the material world. You have to understand that. This is from the Vedanta Sutra, commentary by Madhvacharya. And originally it's from the Rig Veda, this mantra. It explains the very purpose and the very inner feelings of the Lord Krishna. So basically it tells you that the Lord is completely ecstatic. And as a result of his ecstasy, this world is created. It's not that he needs this world for some purpose or some prayojana. So what is the meaning of that? It's simple. Let's understand it like that. Krishna is completely overcome with Radharani's love. He's overflowing with that love. So just like an angry person, when an angry person comes across anybody, he gets angry at him also, because he's overflowing with anger. In the same way, a person who's ecstatic, overflowing love, whomever he looks at, he completely loves that person naturally and uncontrollably. Similarly, the living entities, when Krishna, who's overflowing with love of Radharani, comes across the living entities, he completely starts loving the living entities who are his part and parcel. And he loves everybody in existence. He completely loves everybody. And in the spiritual realm, love is expressed to various emotions. And one of the emotions is anger. When the beloved somehow or the other kind of betrays the lover, then the jilted lover becomes angry at the beloved. And that anger is an expression of love. We have described this before also, many times. Okay, in the spiritual, for example, in the spiritual realm, anger is the highest expression of love. Radharani, her highest expression is Mahabhava expression, is one of the expressions is anger. When she talks to the bumblebee, she's totally angry with Krishna. She goes to Man Mandir. When Krishna betrays her or does something to her, her love for Krishna comes out as an anger. Anger is the highest expression of ecstasy in the spiritual realm. It's an ecstasy. Anger is not negative like in the material world, as we have discussed before. It's completely spiritual. It's completely beautiful. So, and devotees want Krishna to be angry at them in the spiritual world. That's how they relish the rasa of anger. Even Krishna wants Radharani to be angry, and he wants devotees to be angry, like Yashoda Maiya to be angry with him. Damodar actually, internally in his heart of heart, he wants to experience that anger also many times. So for example, like we'll give many instances, like for example, when the coward boys, they don't give butter to Krishna, and then Krishna comes to their house and he breaks the pot, he pinches their baby, he releases the calves, and he pisses and passes urine in their house, and they are ecstatic. He devastates, he creates dukhalayam apparently in to those devotees, because they didn't give him his butter. But they know that he loves their butter, their love so much that he's uncontrollably angry because they didn't give him the butter. Because they didn't give him their love, he became angry with them and they destroyed their lives. And they are ecstatic. Wow, they want this to happen again and again. So in the spiritual realm, they want Krishna to be angry with them. That's how they experience love of Krishna, jilted love of Krishna. And similarly, Advaita Acharya, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't get angry with him, he preaches Mayavad. And when Pundarak Vidyanidhi sees that Jagannath becomes angry with him, he goes ecstatically happy. And he becomes ecstatically happy and he says, wow, Jagannath got angry with me. He loves me so much. I did some mischief with him and he got so angry. I criticized his devotees. He became so angry. So he was ecstatic. And when Sanatan, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastises our Satyabhama, what's his name? And then Sanatan Goswami gets angry. He gets upset. He says, my Lord, you are chastising him, but you're not chastising me. That means you don't love me. You're not expressing anger towards me. That means you don't love me. So these are the instances, like, many incidences are there where you can see that anger is the highest expression of love. Including Krishna himself enjoys the anger of his devotees. So he creates situation where devotees get angry with him, and then he enjoys that angry mood of Lord. So similarly, Krishna, who is totally ecstatic and he loves everybody, and he's a Rasaraj, In this state, when the living entities um, betray him, or such a Leela is created in the spiritual world. That's also Leela actually, because spiritual world there is no false ego, there is nothing, there is no enviousness, there is nothing like that. So the enviousness is also Leela for the living entity. So somehow the living entity has a fight with Krishna and he just leaves the spiritual world and comes to the material world. From Krishna's point of view, this is just like a Leela, just like, and he gets very angry, like Radharani gets angry with Krishna, Krishna gets angry with the living entity, and he creates the material world, and in the material world he allows the living entity to enjoy separate from Krishna, but he comes along with the living entity in the heart of the living entity, and he makes sure that the living entity suffers because he doesn't want the living entity to be happy. So he hides in the heart of the living entity, and he foils every single plan for happiness of the living entity, like jivas, and creates dukhalem situation for them. And that is an expression of anger, an expression of love, the highest love that Krishna feels for one living entity, that he is constantly scheming to devastate, to create devastations in the life of a devotee. So that is an expression of, so that's Shishti Adikam Harinave, that's his ecstasy. So that as a result of ecstasy, suffering also comes in the material world. You might say, what then, how come the Lord is so cruel that he creates such kind of sufferings? Radharani doesn't want Krishna to suffer in that way. Yes, Krishna also doesn't know that the living entities are suffering, because the intermediate layer is Maya. Maya is Yog Maya, and she creates the concept of suffering in the material realm, and she herself doesn't touch that, because she doesn't touch the material world. Durga touches, like the machine that she creates out of Lord Shiva's body, Durga, that comes in contact with the material realm, and she is insulated from the happenings of this material world. So Yog Maya herself doesn't know the creation that she has created, and in that creation there is the concept of pain, which is similar to the concept of pain in the spiritual world, but completely different, which she doesn't know. And because she doesn't know, and she is the Swabhaviki Shakti of Lord Krishna, Krishna doesn't know. So Krishna doesn't know anything about the suffering and the pain of the material realm. So he thinks his concept is still that he is having a Leela of hitting and beating, just like he hits and beats Madhu Mangal in the spiritual world. So he's hitting and beating the living entities in the material world, because Madhu Mangal doesn't share his chas with Krishna. Krishna goes and creates mischief, and he beats Madhu Mangal's, and he slaps Madhu Mangal's cheeks. He flattens out his cheeks, and then he drinks the chas forcefully. So in the same way, he is doing that to the living entities, just like he is doing to Madhu Mangal. But this is a completely different story, because we are experiencing pain which Krishna doesn't understand. And so this is a big problem. Now, because Krishna doesn't understand the concept of pain and happiness, he doesn't have this concept of material pain, material happiness. He doesn't know that. He has no idea. So it becomes very difficult to pray to him. Now the concept of prayer becomes almost impossible to Krishna, because when you talk to Krishna, you cannot convince him, because in the spiritual realm everything is contradictory and paradoxical in nature. When a devotee says, don't come to, when Krishna only hears what he wants to hear from a devotee, generally, in his Leela, generally. So, for example, somebody tells, Krishna, please come to my house and take all the butter. So, what Krishna hears is, come to my house and take butter. Then some other devotee says, Krishna, don't come to my house and steal butter. I'll chastise you. And Krishna hears, please come to my house and steal butter and devastate my house. No problem. So, that's what the devotee wants. He wants Krishna to come and steal butter. So Krishna hears that only. So many times when the gopi says, please Krishna, don't steal our clothes, please give back our clothes, but the gopis are thinking, let him steal the clothes. That is ecstatic. So everything is contradictory in the spiritual realm. So when the devotee talks to Krishna, Krishna has no idea of what he really wants, because everything is contradictory in the spiritual realm. Whatever the devotee wants is contradictory. Whatever he wants, what he doesn't want, their behavior is completely contradictory. When Radharani is crying, genuinely crying for Krishna, Krishna, don't leave Vrindavan, don't leave Vrindavan, don't leave Vrindavan, please don't leave Vrindavan. But she is experiencing highest bliss, highest ecstasy in Vipralamba Bhav, which gives her the greatest pleasure. Krishna himself is stunned how much pleasure, how much ecstasy she is getting, and he doesn't know how to experience that ecstasy. So Krishna cannot experience the ecstasy, Anubhava. For that, he has to replicate the entire Leela as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This shows that although Krishna is there in the heart, he knows every thought of the living entity, but the feelings, the bhavana, Krishna cannot relish that directly.
from the heart of the living entity. So if he wants to do that, he has to replicate the entire Leela as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and assume the mood of Radharani, and he cannot enjoy it through Radharani because that ecstasy, he can understand Radharani's thoughts, minds, her ecstatic behavior and everything, but Anubhav he cannot have. For that, to Anubhav the Radharani's ecstasy, he has to replicate the entire situation and become Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then relish that whole pastime as Radharani relishes. That is how he has to do. Similarly, but he cannot do that with the living entity. To see how they are there, to understand their pain, suffering, he thinks it is a sort of an ecstasy also. Just like in the spiritual realm, there is ecstasy of separation and stuff like that. He's thinking this is also some sort of ecstasy, negative ecstasy. But he cannot relish that. To relish that, he will have to assume the role of a living entity, put himself under Maya, and then, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, assume another incarnation who is under Maya, and then understand the situation of a living entity. That is impossible because Maya cannot capture the Lord. Mahamaya specifically, he cannot capture the Lord. So there is no way Krishna can understand what is going on, what is the experience of pain that a living entity is experiencing. So it's, for him it's still a Leela, it's still a ecstasy. This material realm is simply a Leela for the Lord. Shishti adikam hare neva prayojana pekshita kurukte keval ananda. He's still ecstasy, he's dancing in ecstasy. His Lord is still in ecstasy. And he's creating the material realm, he's doing all the pastimes, beating the living entities. That is his Bhavananda, enjoyment, beating the living entities. So to such a personality, when you say, Krishna, don't do this, I'm in pain, such kind of statements have no meaning to Krishna. Krishna has no enemies, he has no friends, he cannot have enemies and friends. Those who give you pleasure become your friends, those who give you any pain become your enemies. Krishna has no concept of pleasure and pain, he has no friends and enemies. When he fights with Hiranyakashipu, he just wants to enjoy fighting, that's all. That's why he gets Jay Vijay, who is his own devotees, to become demons. Because he wants to fight with somebody. It's like a game for him. So when he's fighting with the demons, it's just like, he's playing a game with them, that's all. It's a different game, but it's a very bad game because for the demons. And when he's having nice ecstatic relationship with his devotees, that is another game. So yayatha mam prapadyante, whatever game you play with him, he will play that game. But for him, there is nothing known as partiality and stuff like that. It is simply a different form of a game for Krishna. Leela. Material world is also a Leela for Krishna. Nothing else other than a Leela. We are all a part of the wrong Leela of Krishna, and we have to be in the right Leela of Krishna. That is the goal of human life. But somehow we are stuck in this Leela. And the only way to get out of the Leela is to go into another Leela. Without getting into another Leela, you cannot get out of the another Leela. So you yourself cannot get out. You have to give pleasure to Krishna in another Leela, and Krishna has to transfer you from this Leela to that Leela by telling Maya. Otherwise, there is no. So you have to beg Krishna. That's the only thing we have to do. So fortunately, the other Leela of Krishna is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in an ecstatic trance. He is in separation from Krishna, just like Radharani separation from Krishna, and he sees the living entities are separated from Krishna. So he says, my union with Krishna is incomplete until all the other living entities are also united with Krishna. How can I be so selfish that I alone want to go to Krishna? No. I cannot have any ecstasy if other living entities that I see, they also should be united with Krishna. So this transcendental compassion of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his Mahabhav is incomplete. So he gives the Harinam, he gives preaching and all other things. So when we preach, we are completing the Mahabhav of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we are completing the Mahabhav of Radharani. That is the reason why Hare Krishna Mahamantra has got literally superlative levels of mercy inside that, because it's the highest Leela of ecstasy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that you are completing by accepting that mantra. So the pastime, the Leela is getting completed. So that is very powerful. When you preach, it is more than staying in Vrindavan. Otherwise, staying in Vrindavan is the highest. But when you preach this message, it is so high, it is so powerful, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela of Mahabhav, Radharani's Leela of Mahabhav is being completed. So that is the power of this preaching and Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Jivadvaya and Namruchi. And of course, Vaishnav Seva is already included, because Krishna loves his devotees, and so serving his devotees is a part of this whole thing. So now the point that comes is, when you pray to Krishna, it becomes very difficult to talk to Krishna. For example, you are suffering right now, you got some kind of disease. I tell Krishna, please remove this disease, my Lord, please remove this disease. So Krishna has no understanding of suffering, pain. So when you tell him that, please do certain things, for him that statement has no meaning. He may think that, okay, he just wants to enjoy more rasa, just like, how Narottam Das Thakur, oh my Lord, Janiya, Shuniya, Vishay, Khailu, I am suffering, and like Ishwar Puri, oh, where my Lord, where are you? I am suffering, I am suffering, I am suffering. Without you, I am suffering, something like that. So he thinks that, just like Kolachavicha Sridhar is telling, no, please don't take. I want some money. Please give me some money for this banana leaves. He says, no, you have to give less money. No, please give me more money. So, although Kolachavicha Sridhar is loving that exchange, he is acting as if in a contradictory fashion. So, Krishna has no understanding of what contradictions and genuine feelings are. So, you are genuinely saying, I am in suffering, please remove me. Krishna is like, okay, he want, we will play more game with him. So maybe he loves to do this, with me, or maybe this is a kind of a game, right? Oh, Madhu Mangal. So just like, when Madhu Mangal is shouting, so you have to, the only thing that Krishna understands is Leelas. So you have to relate that what kind of prayer are you doing. So you have to invoke a particular mood of Krishna to get your things done, So prayer is that invoking a particular standard mood of Krishna. So Krishna, when you just talk to him, he won't understand you, like what you want. Because you may be speaking like, for example, when you are in trouble, you are crying, oh Krishna, 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 save me. So, there are two people who cry like that. One is Madhu Mangal, when the gopis catch him stealing butter because he is there with Krishna, and then from his shikha, they hang him to a tree. Of course, in spiritual world, everything is ecstatic. So he starts crying, Krishna, save me, and Krishna doesn't come to save him. He says, oh, very good, got caught. Fatso got caught, my friend. So he's happy. Although he's shouting for him, And Gajendra is praying for Krishna, please save me. And suddenly, in that pastime, Krishna comes and saves him. Somehow that happened. So now when you say, Krishna save me, Krishna is like confused. Whether you're calling him like Madhu Mangal is calling him, or whether you are calling him like Gajendra is calling him. So that is why we have standard prayers. You see all prayers, they are standard prayers. There is invoking a mood of the Lord. And you say that I am calling like Gajendra. I am not calling like Madhu Mangal. That is not my prayer. My prayer is that of Gajendra. Please save me. I am really in trouble. So when you associate a Leela and a particular bhav in that prayer, of that Leela, then Krishna knows, oh, it's like Gajendra, I should go and save him. Because whenever somebody prays like Gajendra, I should go and save him. If somebody shouts like Madhu Mangal, I should make fun of him. That is how Krishna is like a small child. You have to understand him like a small child who is a mischievous little child and plays pranks and mischief, and he is now come, he is angry with you, is doing some mischief. And suddenly you have to invoke the proper mood. And then he will come. So for us, the proper mood is whenever the Lord has come, that is pray like Draupadi. In that mood, invoke that mood of Draupadi. Invoke the mood of Narsimha Dev and Prahlad Maharaj. When Prahlad is praying, think of, he says, I am like Prahlad, Narsimha Dev, please come. So with that mood, that prayer when you invoke, Krishna is understanding, oh, I am supposed to go and save. This is how the Leela happens, because that mood of Krishna is invoked in a particular prayer. Like Prahlad Maharaj, like Narsimha Dev, like Gajendra, like Draupadi. So you have to have standard prayers of these people. These are like standard prayers which are actually spoken by devotees who and tried and tested Leelas which have repeating again and again in the spiritual realm, and Krishna responds to those prayers in the exact same way every time. So my point here is that the prayers, the important, that's why if you see even in Narayana Kavacham prayers, a particular deity is invoked and a particular Leela is invoked, and then that deity is a deity which is like related to that particular Leela, like Narsimha Dev in very dangerous situation, then Narsimha Dev is invoked in Narayana Kavacha, and Vamana Dev is invoked in a particular situation when he's in land, because he came for 3 steps of land. So that Leela is invoked. My Lord, in the land, please protect me, because all the land belongs to you only. Ultimately, I am your subject, something like that. In that mood, Vamana Dev is. And then in the sky, Trivikrama is invoked in Narayana Kavacham. So that particular mood is invoked. And in Narsimha Kavacham also, if you see, the pastime of the Lord is invoked, and he said, just like your bhuja, is like this. So similarly, you protect my bhuja also, thinking it to be your own bhuja. If somebody comes and attacks your bhuja, how will you do? So in the same way, your nabhi, who's a universal nabhi, just protect my nabhi also. Like just like your nabhi is there. In that same way, please protect my nabhi also. So a particular Krishna there is a correlation made when protection is being sought from the Lord, and a particular prayer where other devotees, just like how the Vrijavasi sometimes they say, Krishna Krishna Mahabhava, please protect us from the fire, from Indra's wrath, please. So those kind of prayers, it's very, very specific, because you can't just talk to Krishna like in English, like Krishna, I'm in trouble, please save me, oh please save me Krishna. So Krishna will respond in whatever way he wants to respond. He might give you more trouble, he might solve the trouble, whatever mood. But when you invoke the prayers like Narsimha Kirtan, like a particular mood of the Lord who has come to protect, and that mood has been invoked, then Krishna gets a very clear idea. Oh, this is how I am supposed to respond. Because you try to understand, this personality Krishna has nothing known as contradictions. He doesn't understand what is, for him chastisement is as ecstatic as scolding him is as good as glorifying him. For him, enemies are as good as friends. You cannot talk in a language and try to convince him about suffering, pain, stuff like that, because he has never experienced such kind of things. For him, suffering is ecstasy. And he lives in a world where people are avoiding suffering, but they'll enjoy suffering. Like Radharani is saying, Lord Krishna, don't leave, but internally she is enjoying more than Sambhoga in Vipralamba. So contradictory behavior is happening in spiritual world. So all these kind of behaviors in the spiritual realm, Krishna as a small child, an ecstatic child who has created this universe, for him it is all a combination of all these things. So when you're talking with Krishna, when you're dealing with Krishna, the prayers are a method in which a particular mood is invoked. So when you're repeating the Acharya's prayers verbatim as it is, then what happens is you are invoking the particular mood of the Acharya. So that's why they have given you so many bhajans. If you make your own bhajans and your own prayers, that may or may not work, because you don't know exactly the art of rasas, how Krishna's particular mood is invoked in particular. So that's how the whole Acharyas, they approach the Lord. In a particular mood, in a particular rasa, and the Lord's particular emotion is invoked. So this was my 2 cents on the concept of prayers actually. Hare Krishna.